This is Brother Medina for Tuesday Seventh-day Adventist, and let us start with a word of prayer. Loving Father, please be with us as we enter into this presentation. Bless everyone listening and help everyone to see the sense, the urgency, and the merits of being cautious. In Jesus' holy name we pray. Amen. Well, we are continuing our discussion, Personal Talk 12, and this is how far we have reached. Personal Talk 12. And we want to continue discussing things that have been going on all around the world that pose a danger to humanity. They pose a danger to your family, to people. And everything that we say here have been verified and proven. We've gotten clear evidence of what we have been saying. So nothing that was presented on falsehood. Every single thing we have shown you so far has been true. And we even thank our news correspondent in North America for helping us with some of this information that we are giving to you. And we would want you to know that these things to you are for the sake of helping you recognize how late time is and that you must prepare for great changes that are taking place on the whole earth and for the second coming of Jesus Christ. Now, a lot of things take place behind the scenes that we are not aware of. Many dangerous meetings and discussions take place behind the scenes. And those meetings that take place behind the scenes, decisions are arrived at, positions are arrived at that affect billions upon the face of the earth. However, many of us just see the fallout or just receive the dire results of those decisions that were made by a few people. And as a result of that, it affects us and does great damage to us. And when we try to find out who were responsible, we are not capable or able or don't have the information to go back to see the first cause and to see the people who are behind it. And for that reason, they never get caught. And as they get away with gross evil, sometimes mass damaging of the health of people and genocide, because they are not charged and brought to justice, the point is they continue because they feel that they are untouchable. However, what we are doing here today, we are showing you these things that you would know some of the people responsible. Now, in my hand here, I have a very serious document. The name of this document is Russia Warns Obama, Monsanto. Russia warns Obama, Monsanto. Now, that's the name of this document here. And the document purports to explain a meeting that took place between Russia and America regarding Monsanto. Now, for those of you who don't remember, Monsanto is the world's #1 giant genetic modified organisms food organization. So when you talk about genetically modified foods, Monsanto is the world's largest. And they have been doing great damage to the food chain all over the world to such a terrible extent that shocking things are happening upon the face of the earth that has never happened before. Take, for instance, Monsanto planted genetically modified grass. And this grass was for cattle to eat. So the grass grew very green quickly and it looked very good. But when the cows ate this grass, the grass released cyanide in their leaves and killed all the cows. Yes, my dear people. But they covered it up. They never told anyone. They never told anyone that cattle feeding on Monsanto's genetically modified grass was killed by cyanide being released in the grass itself. They never told anybody that. And there are many more mishaps that has taken place that nobody was warned about. Take, for instance, here is a human being born after using genetically modified food for a period of time, has fingernails growing all over their body, all on their hands, their chest, all over their body. Notice this, fingernails growing out of their body. And nobody seems to pay any attention about it. And as for the media in the West, they always cover up these things because they are all protecting one another as they work to create their horrible New World Order. And as a result of that, people are suffering. Now let me read this document for you that you would see horrible things are coming. I quote, "The shocking minutes relating to President Putin's meeting this past week with U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry revealed the Russian leader's extreme outrage over the Obama regime's continued protection of global seed and plant biogenic giants Syngenta and Monsanto in the face of a growing bee apocalypse that the Kremlin warns will most certainly lead to world war. End of quote. Did you see that? So honeybees are dying all over the world, and many people don't seem to know why. Take, for instance, I looked at a video footage. Over 25,000 bees just dropped dead in one car park. Why? What happened? Things like that never happened before. And here is the Russian president warning the U.S. president through the Secretary of State, John Kerry, that unless they stop protecting Monsanto and another company called Syngenta, that they're going to face a bee apocalypse and it will lead to world war. Did you see that? But of course, the news never told you that. I continue to read. According to these minutes released in the Kremlin today by the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment of the Russian Federation, that is MNRE, Putin was so incensed over the Obama regime's refusal to discuss the grave matter that he refused for 3 hours to even meet with Mr. Kerry, who had traveled to Moscow on a scheduled diplomatic mission, but then relented so as to not cause an even greater rift between these two nations. End of quote. Did you see that? So the Russian president was so angry at what Mr. Obama's regime was doing with regards to Monsanto that he refused to talk to the Secretary of State, and for 3 hours had him waiting there without even having any discussion with him. And then afterwards he relented because he did not want to cause more damage between the relations of the two states. I continue. At the center of this dispute between Russia and the U.S., this MNRA report states, is the undisputed evidence that a class of neuroactive insecticides chemically related to nicotine, known as neonicotinoids, again neonicotinoids, are destroying our planet's bee population, and which, if left unchecked, would destroy our world's ability to grow enough food to feed its population. End of quote. Did you see that? So, there are a whole new class of insecticides made by Monsanto and also Syngenta. And this class of insecticides has something in it called neonicotinoids, a whole class of nicotine active properties in them. And this has been killing bees all over the world. Yes, my dear people, this is the reason why millions of bees have died all over the world. 80% of bees have died in America alone. Notice the whole country, 80% of bees have died, just dropped dead suddenly like that. Now I continue to read. So grave has this situation become that the MNRE reports the full European Commission, EC, this past week instituted a 2-year precautionary ban set to begin on the 1st of December 2013 on these bee-killing pesticides, following the lead of Switzerland, France, Italy, Russia, Slovenia, and Ukraine, all of whom had previously banned these most dangerous of genetically altered organisms from being used on the continent. End of quote. Did you see that, my dear people? So the European Union and other nations had to ban these kind of insecticides from being used on the continent because they recognized that they were killing bees. And as a result of that, they will not be able to pollinate flowers. And as no pollination takes place, you find a lot of foods, trees will become sterile and barren and will not produce fruits. And so people wouldn't get food to feed the population. And all this can be charged right back to Monsanto and Syngenta. Yes, my dear people. And so this was spoken to Mr. Obama's administration about, and he refused to do anything. In fact, let me continue to read what happened. I quote, "Two of the most feared neonicotinoids being banned are Actara and Cruzia, made by the Swiss global biotech seed and pesticide giant Syngenta AG." Yes, my dear people. And this is the reason why in this country, whenever the government see any of those nicotinoids, Actara or Cruzia, and it is made in Switzerland by the global biotech seed and pesticide giant Syngenta, or even Monsanto, when they see those things, what must they do? Don't buy it. Don't bring it into this country. Keep them away from this country to save the food production of the country. It continues. Which Syngenta AG, which employs over 26,000 people in over 90 countries and ranks third in total global sales in the commercial agricultural seed market. Yes, my dear people, I continue. Important to note, this report says is that Syngenta, along with biotech giants Monsanto, Bayer, Dow, and DuPont, now control nearly 100% of the global market for genetically modified pesticides, plants, and seeds. Yes, my dear people. So this is how they control these things. Almost 100% of it is controlled by them. I continue. Also to note about Syngenta, this report continues, is that in 2012 it was criminally charged in Germany for concealing the fact that its genetically modified corn killed cattle. Notice this? Its genetically modified corn killed cattle, and settled a class action lawsuit in the US for $105 million after it was discovered they had contaminated the drinking supply of some 52 million Americans in more than 2,000 water districts with its gender-bending herbicide atrazine. End of quote. Did you see that? So these Monsanto and Syngenta had literally polluted the drinking water supply of 52 million Americans in 2,000 water districts. So much of these chemicals come out into the soil and goes way down into the ground and touches the water table. And the water supplies are being corrupted by Monsanto's and by Syngenta's biogenics program. And so as a result of that, a lot of things are taking place. Now they have atrazine, which is interfere with your gender. Did you catch that? Today they are trying to destroy the idea of the male gender and the female gender and create a sodomite gender. And what has happened now? Now they have a chemical that they're putting in food that could interfere with your gender. Did you see what's going on? And it has polluted the water supply of 52 million Americans. So what are they trying to do? Interfere with the gender of millions of Americans. And all this was shown to the Obama administration by the Russians. But I continue. To how staggeringly frightful this situation is, the MNRE report says can be seen in the report issued this past March by the American Bird Conservancy, wherein they warned our whole planet is in danger and as we can, in part, read, I quote, as part of a study on impacts from the world's most widely used class of insecticides, nicotine-like chemicals called neonicotinoids, American Bird Conservancy has called for a ban on their use as seed treatments and for the suspension of all applications pending an independent review of the product's effects on birds, terrestrial and aquatic, invertebrates, and other wildlife. Do you know why? Frogs are dying all over the world. Certain important insects are dying out all over the world. And when a bird just eats one seed, notice it's just one seed that has been genetically modified or sprayed with these genetically modified chemicals, the bird dies. Yes, my dear people. As a result of that, we have mass deaths of animals all over the world due to the partaking of Monsanto's and Syngenta's bad chemically modified products. And it is causing a lot of deaths. And I quote, "It is clear that these chemicals have the potential to affect entire food chains." And this was in the report that was given to America by the Russians. Yes, my dear people. And although this was given, what did America do? What did the US do? Listen to this. I quote, "Quickly following this damning report, the MRNECs, a large group of American beekeepers and environmentalists sued the Obama regime over the continued use of these nicotinoids, stating, 'We are taking the EPA to court for its failure to protect bees from pesticides, despite our best efforts to warn the agency about the problems posed by neonicotinoids. The EPA continued to ignore the clear warning signs of an agricultural system in trouble.'" Did you see that? And so that's why they had to sue the Obama administration, because the Environmental Protection Agency, which again was a controlled body, was doing nothing about it. And listen, the world's economic system, the world's agricultural system is so bad that a lot of plants and seeds are gonna become extinct very soon. Yes, my dear people. In fact, Europe has already sought to put into action certain plans to starve off or to keep off the mass starvation that would come as suddenly a lot of plants just stop producing and just die. This is so terrible. Let me tell you something. I quote from this document. It says this: "Europe is rushing towards the good old days, circa 1939-1940. A new law proposed by the European Commission would make it illegal to grow, reproduce, or trade any vegetable seeds that have been tested, approved, that have not been tested, approved, and accepted by a new EU bureaucracy named the EU Plant Variety Agency." Did you see that? So now nobody can plant anything without getting their seeds and so on approved from a European agency. I continue to read. It's called the Plant Reductive Material Law, and it attempts to put the government in charge of virtually all plants and seeds. Home gardeners who grow their own plants from non-regulated seeds would be considered criminals under this law. So could you imagine this? You have your own home garden and you plant seeds. You can be called a criminal just for planting seeds. Because why? Those seeds were not investigated by the government. Let me tell you why this has happened. I continue. This MRNE report points out that even though this European Commission action may appear draconian, it is nevertheless necessary in order to purge the continent from continued contamination by those genetically bred seed monstrosities. End of quote. So why Europe is now going and impose this horrible law? Because they're trying to cleanse the continent from the effects of genetically modified seeds and plants and all of these chemicals. They have to do it as a kind of a draconian measure, because they recognize that if you just plant your garden with a genetically modified seeds, that it could spread to the next garden and spread and very soon contaminate the whole continent. And in fact, the whole continent is already contaminated with Monsanto's and Syngenta's genetically modified organisms. And as a result of that, they're trying to purge them from the continent, and that's why they put this terrible law. Yes, my dear people, but they have done it because it is an emergency, a terrible emergency. But you know, while they have done this to try to protect all of these things, how did Mr. Obama and his government respond? They responded by passing a law to protect Monsanto from being sued by the average person in America. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine that? One would think that he would stop it, but instead, let me quote, after his victory in 2008 election, Obama filled key posts with Monsanto people in federal agencies that wield tremendous force in food issues. The USDA and the FDA. At the USDA, as the director of the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, Roger Beachy, former director of Monsanto Danforth Center. As Deputy Commissioner of the Food and Drug Administration, the new Food Safety Issues czar, the infamous Michael Taylor, former Vice President for Public Policy for Monsanto. Taylor had been instrumental in getting approval for Monsanto's genetically engineered bovine growth hormone. So the next time you are eating pork or you're eating beef or you're eating chicken, remember, genetically modified growth hormone have been placed in these things, and you're eating something that will affect the very genes of your body. Yes, my dear people. So you see, the US, I continue. Even worse, after Russia suspended the import and use of an Monsanto genetically modified corn, following a study suggesting a link to breast cancer and organ damage this past September, that's last year, the Russian News Today service reported on the Obama regime's response. Now let's hear what was Obama's response. I quote, "The U.S. House of Representatives quietly passed a last-minute addition to the Agricultural Appropriations Bill for 2013 last week, including a provision protecting genetically modified seeds from litigation in the face of health risks." End of quote. Did you see that? So then, therefore, if you use these genetically modified organisms and you get damage, you cannot now sue them because they have now passed a bill to stop the people who get damaged from suing the organization. And that was the response of the Obama regime to the reports that were shown to them by Russia concerning Monsanto's genetically modified monstrosities. And as a result of that, when the Americans passed this bill, the Russians were angry and determined not to talk to the Americans, but then they relented. But we say the Russians have shown more good behavior in contrast to the Americans, because now all kind of wrong things are going on in that country and influencing people. And now they are touching the food chain and destroying the food chain. Yes, my dear people, I quote at the end of this document. It says this here. On March the 26th of 2013, Obama quietly signed this Monsanto Protection Act into law, thus ensuring the American people have no recourse against this biotech giant as they fall ill by the tens of millions, and many millions will surely end up dying in what this mRNA report calls the greatest agricultural apocalypse in human history, as over 90% of the wild bee population in the US has already died out, and up to 80% of domestic bees have died also. End of quote. Did you see that? So what do we have here? 90% of wild bees have died in America, died out in America, and 80% of domestic bees. And all this through Monsanto's genetical madness. Yes, my dear people. And yet still, instead of seeking to protect their people from damage, what the government has done, blocked the way that they cannot deal with the issue, that they cannot sue the organization and sue them out of existence. Now, I have documents here which showing that in India, many of them took large loans and trusted Monsanto's genetically modified crops. And they planted very large areas, hoping that as they reap a wealth of produces through these genetically modified crops, that they would make millions. And guess what? These crops failed so badly that we had thousands of Indians in India committing suicide when they lost everything. Yes, my dear people. And not just only that, the food chain has now been polluted in India with genetically modified crops. And so the damage continues on a worldwide scale. If you go high up in the Andes, in Peru, all the different kind of corns that these Amerindians have been growing for centuries, where they have modified them through learning to plant different types of corns over the years. All these have become contaminated already quite up on the Andes mountains by Monsanto's genetically modified crops. This has been taking place all over the world. And this is the reason why we need to recognize that God says he will destroy those who destroy the earth. When you check Revelation chapter 12, and you see what the Bible tells us is that God will destroy those, chapter 11 and verse 17, that God will destroy those who destroy the earth. And so the facts are, terrible things are coming. Great destruction is coming. And we are warning you over and over. Here is the voice of warning. Now, many people are afraid to hear things like this because it troubles their love of ease. Many people are also afraid to do something about it because they will have to deny themselves. And many people are afraid of information like this. It's too serious for them. The Christianity today is a joke. It's one set of joke. It's one set of just dealing with various topics that do not touch people's lives in a way to save them. And these easy, smooth preachings is what people like. But when somebody presents the truth, plain and raw, as we present it, people become afraid. And as a result of that, some try to disassociate themselves from it. But we are telling you, my dear people, you will see, once you do not take cognizance of what we tell you, you will see the dire results in your life. And you would remember our words. But we have said none of this to do ill or to mean ill to anyone. All of this were meant to help people, to let people see the truth and to encourage them to prepare for the end. These things were said to you in love. No ill was meant to anyone. And this is the reason why we hope that you pay attention to these things. Listen very carefully. Let me just quickly say one last thing before we close off here. Look, there are many, many things that we could have shown you. I have in my hand here another document. Do you know what this document states? Why, instead of chasing criminals, are police asking children to write essays about gay pride? Did you see that? And the Kent Police Force have been accused of going too far after inviting children under the age of 14 to write about their feelings on homosexuality and transsexuality as a part of a competition. And they're offering them £25. So you want children now to think about their homosexuality, to think and search their body to see what feelings they have for a gender that is like their own and not the opposite gender, and to win a prize if they write something favorable. That's what the police is doing. Instead of teaching the children about what is wrong with criminality, all these crazy things are taking place in the world. We could have read more for you, but we just let you know these things that you would know how late time is. So, until then, what you can do, you can call us at 625-0446. 625-0446. You can also call us at this number, 755-9006. 755-9006. And we would send this whole set of information to you on disk, that you too can get it for yourselves and understand for yourselves. And until then, may God bless you until we meet again in Jesus' holy name.